My 4-year-old daughter looked at me and said, "He wants you to look under the stone." I didn't expect to find something that would destroy my family. It all started 3 months ago when my daughter, Clara, began talking to herself in the garden. At first, I thought it was normal, kids have imagination, they make up friends, play with things we can't see. My husband Diego always said it was a phase, that it would pass. But things happened that make me question everything I believe about what's real and what's not. Let me go back a bit so you can understand the whole story. 5 years ago, my sister, Amanda, came to spend the weekend at my house. We were always close, like best friends, really, not just sisters. She had just inherited some jewelry from our grandmother who had passed away, a pearl necklace, some antique gold earrings, and a bracelet with stones that were worth quite a bit of money. It wasn't even so much about the financial value, but the sentimental value. Our grandmother wore those jewels at all the important occasions of her life. Amanda brought the jewelry to show me. We sat there in the living room, remembering stories about Grandma, crying, laughing, those things. She put everything in a little box and left it on top of the dresser in the guest room where she was sleeping. On Sunday morning, when she left, the jewelry was gone. Amanda turned the whole house upside down. We looked in every corner, every drawer, every possible hole. Nothing. It just disappeared. And then the worst part started. She accused me of stealing it. I swear I was in shock. My own sister thinking I would be capable of stealing from her? The fight was horrible. She screamed things I'll never forget. She said I had always been jealous of her, that I wanted the jewelry for myself since Grandma died, that I was fake. I tried to defend myself, tried to explain that I would never do that, but she didn't want to listen. She left slamming the door and we stopped talking, completely. 5 years without exchanging a word with my sister. My mom tried to bring us together several times, but Amanda was stubborn. She was sure I had stolen it. Those 5 years were terrible. I lost my best friend. Family started taking sides. Some people believed her, some people believed me. It became a huge division. Family parties became a silent war zone. I cried so much because of this, I lost count. Diego always supported me, always said he knew I was incapable of doing that. When Clara was born, I thought maybe that could bring us together again, but Amanda didn't even want to meet her niece. It was way too painful. Now, let's get to what happened these last few months. Clara was always a normal child. She played with dolls, watched cartoons, those things 4-year-old kids do. But in September, she started spending a lot of time in the backyard of our house. We have a big garden with some trees, flowers, and in the corner there are some big stones that were already there when we bought the house. One day, I looked out the window and saw her sitting near the stones talking, like really talking, speaking and pausing as if someone was answering. I went to see what it was and asked, "Who are you talking to, sweetheart?" She looked at me with those innocent little eyes and said, "With my friend." I looked around. There was no one there. "What friend, Clara?" "That one over there." She pointed to an empty space next to her. Okay, I thought, imaginary friend, totally normal. I had one myself when I was little. I didn't worry too much at that moment. But then things started getting weird. Clara started talking about this imaginary friend every day. She said he was old, that he wore old clothes, that he had lived near the stones for a long time. Detail, she never gave him a name. She always called him my friend or he. Diego thought it was funny at first. He made jokes, asked if the friend wanted to have dinner with us, those things. But I started getting uncomfortable when Clara started knowing things she shouldn't know. One day, she came to me and said, "Mom, my friend said you're sad because of your sister." I froze. We had never talked about Amanda in front of Clara. Never. It was a subject that Diego and I completely avoided around her. "How do you know about my sister, Clara?" "He told me. He said you didn't do anything wrong, and that one day everyone will know." Guys, I got goosebumps. Seriously, how would a 4-year-old know this? I wondered if maybe she had overheard some conversation without us noticing, but Diego swore we never talked about it at home. The weeks went by, and Clara continued talking to this imaginary friend. She told stories that he supposedly told her, stories about the house, about the neighborhood back in the day, things a 4-year-old wouldn't know. I started researching the history of our house. I found out that before it was ours, the house had belonged to an elderly man who lived there alone for decades and died in the 90s. He had no family, and the house was abandoned for a while until it was renovated and sold. When Clara described her friend, old man, old clothes, alone, it all matched what I had discovered about the former owner. Coincidence? I wanted to believe it was, but something inside me said it wasn't. There was a night I couldn't sleep thinking about it. I went to Clara's room to see if she was okay, and she was sitting on the bed, awake, looking at the window that faced the garden. "Clara, why are you awake?" "He's calling me, Mom. He wants to show you something important." My heart raced. "Show me what?" "He didn't tell me, but he said it's something you lost a long time ago." I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I kept thinking about what it could be. Was I going crazy? Was I paying too much attention to my daughter's stories? But there was something about the way she spoke, a seriousness that kids her age don't normally have. The next morning, Clara was having breakfast when she suddenly stopped eating and stared at the garden through the kitchen glass door. "He's there," she said. "Who, sweetheart?" "My friend." I looked at the garden. Nothing, just the trees swaying in the wind. "What does he want to say?" Clara was silent for a moment, as if she was listening to something. Then she turned to me and said that sentence that changed everything. "He told you to look under the big stone in the corner of the garden. He said there's something that will make your sister forgive you." Guys, I froze, completely froze. How would an imaginary friend know about my sister? How would he know I needed forgiveness? This had already gone beyond just being a child's imagination. Diego was at work. I took Clara by the hand and we went to the garden. My heart was beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. We got near the big stone, a stone about 60 centimeters wide that had been there forever. "Under this one?" I asked Clara. She nodded yes. I tried to move the stone, but it was too heavy. I went back inside the house, got a shovel from the yard, and started digging around the stone to be able to turn it over. It took about 20 minutes. I was sweating, but I finally managed. And then I saw it. Under the stone, there was a hole, and inside that hole, there was a rusty metal box. My hands were shaking when I grabbed the box. I opened it and almost fell backwards. It was my grandmother's jewelry, all of it. The pearl necklace, the gold earrings, the bracelet with stones. Everything that had disappeared 5 years ago was there, under a stone in my garden. I started crying, like really crying, that kind of crying that comes from a deep place. 5 years. 5 years I carried the weight of an accusation that wasn't true. 5 years without talking to my sister. And now I had proof that I never stole anything. But then came the question that won't shut up. How did the jewelry end up there? I had never touched that stone before, never dug there. When Amanda lost the jewelry, Diego and I turned the whole house upside down, but never the garden. It never crossed our minds to look in the garden because it didn't make any sense. Someone had buried those jewels there, but who and why? I looked at Clara. She was standing next to me, calm, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. "How did your friend know this was here?" I asked. "He said he saw the person put it here. He said it was a long time ago when you got sad." "What person, Clara? Who put it here?" She shrugged. "He didn't tell me the name. He just said it was someone who wanted to make you look bad." Guys, at that moment, my world turned upside down. Someone had stolen Amanda's jewelry and hidden it in my garden on purpose. Someone wanted me to take the blame. But who would do that? Who hated me enough to destroy my relationship with my sister? I called Diego right away.
He left work and came running home. When I showed him the jewelry, he was as shocked as I was. We stood there trying to understand what had happened. "You have to tell Amanda," he said. I knew he was right, but I was so scared. Scared that even with the jewelry, she still wouldn't believe me. Scared that it was too late to fix things. But I had to try. I called her number. It rang several times, and I almost hung up, but she answered. "Hello?" Hearing her voice after 5 years made me cry again. "Amanda, it's me. I know you don't want to talk to me, but please listen to me. I found the jewelry. It was buried in my garden. Someone hid it there. I never stole anything from you, Amanda. Please believe me." Silence on the other end. "Amanda? How did you find it?" she asked, her voice shaking. I told her everything. About Clara, about the imaginary friend, about the stone. I know it sounded absurd, but it was the truth. "I'm coming over," she said, and hung up. 2 hours later, Amanda was at my door. When I opened it, we stood there staring at each other for a few seconds. Then she started crying and hugged me. We stood there crying together for I don't know how long. I showed her the jewelry. She took Grandma's necklace in her hands and cried even more. "I'm so sorry," she said. "I'm so sorry for accusing you. It wasn't your fault. Someone did this on purpose." We sat and talked for hours. We tried to figure out who could have done that, but we didn't come to any conclusion. The only person who was in the house that weekend was me, Diego, and Amanda. No one else had access to the garden. Unless someone entered the garden during the night or when we weren't paying attention. We never locked the side gate back then. Amanda met Clara for the first time that day. My daughter was super affectionate with her, gave her a hug and said, "My friend said he's happy because you and my mom became friends again." Amanda got goosebumps when Clara said that. After that day, Amanda and I went back to talking normally. The whole family was relieved. My mom cried when she found out we had made up. It was like a giant weight coming off everyone's shoulders. But the issue of Clara's imaginary friend kept bothering me. Who or what was that? Was it really just her imagination, or was there something else going on? I decided to do something that might be crazy, but I needed answers. I went to research more about the former owner of the house. I found out his name was Mr. Alberto. He had been a widower, lived alone in the house for over 40 years before he died. From the records I found, he was known in the neighborhood as a good person who liked to help the neighbors. An elderly lady who has lived on the street for decades told me that Mr. Alberto always said that even after he died, he would continue taking care of his house. She laughed when she told me this, as if it was just an old man's phrase, but I didn't find it funny at all. I went to the garden and stood near the stone where the jewelry was buried. "If you're here, thank you," I said out loud, feeling ridiculous but needing to do it. "Thank you for helping to fix what someone broke." Clara was at the window watching me. She waved and smiled. Since that day, Clara stopped talking so much about the imaginary friend. She still plays in the garden, but she doesn't talk like she used to. It's as if his mission had been accomplished. I'll never know for sure what happened, whether it was just coincidence, whether it was the fertile imagination of a 4-year-old, or whether there really was something supernatural involved. But one thing I know, if it weren't for that imaginary friend, whatever he was, my sister and I would still be separated. Sometimes I look at the garden and wonder if Mr. Alberto is really still around, taking care of his house the way he promised. And you know what? That idea doesn't scare me anymore. Actually, it brings me a certain comfort. We never found out who buried the jewelry. That part of the story remains a mystery. But the most important thing was recovered: my sister, my family, my peace.